I'll take it.
Are you sure you're not interested? I was like, don't ask me again.
And it's a bad hair day too.
So she's like, scream for me, and then it's just dead silence.
It was a good risk to take, and it was great.
Boom! I'm gonna try to give you a friend, and then I was like,
I wish you had like a granny mask. Or
that would be so cool, or like a ghost uniform.
And everybody was like totally freaked out.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jordan. Hello.
Hello, Mark.
I'm just discovering a love like you. Changes what I'm gonna do. Holding out hope in you. Holding out hope in you. Holding out hope in you.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I am Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts here in Seattle, Washington. Thank you for joining me wherever you are in the world on this Thursday, March 18th, 2021. And it's getting kind of crazy that I'm thinking that things are already overlapping in terms of what's been going on in the world from a year ago. But for me as Eclectic Arts and doing virtual things like this, wherever I'm supposed to put my hands, it's getting closer and closer to where it'll be a year of me doing virtual interviews. I started reviewing advanced films on April 17th of last year, so that's getting close to an anniversary. And I'm just really grateful for all the opportunities I've been afforded and seeing things just kind of move and grow the way they have. I had done an interview yesterday, and I was talking to my guest about how I never would have guessed that during a pandemic of all things that I would see such growth come from the media side of things in my life. So I'm extremely grateful for that. And I appreciate everyone watching and supporting what I do. I can tell you that if you are on YouTube, if you could please not only like the video, but if you could subscribe to my channel, that would be greatly appreciated. If you're watching this on Facebook, if you could follow Eclectic Arts there. And if you're on Twitch, you can follow me there. Coming up pretty soon, probably next week, I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to start streaming only on YouTube and Twitch and moving away from the Facebook platform. I'll still promote things there, of course, because I have a lot of people that follow me there, but I'm going to start utilizing Twitch and YouTube a little bit more in terms of their capabilities and the things that they offer. So, but in the meantime, at least for the next few interviews that I do, they will be available on all three platforms. However, if you're going to be watching this later, then I will keep this particular interview up for at least 7 days or so, but the ones starting next week are going to be shown, and then they're going to start to disappear pretty quick so that hopefully people will go to the YouTube channel or they'll go to Twitch. Go to one of those two platforms. I do prefer them, and I don't know why it's taken me so long to do this, but I do appreciate, again, people that are joining us right now in real time, and I totally understand if you can't do that, if you're working or if you've got other things in your schedule. That's one of the pluses of doing things virtually, is that you can get to it when it's convenient for you. A few housekeeping things before we get to my interview today. I have, goodness, I'm just looking at this coming soon list. So tomorrow I have another edition of the Fun Table Sessions. We just did one last Saturday, and we're doing one on Friday. So I've got two guests, well, actually three guests that have never been a part of the Fun Tables, and I have a veteran joining us, so that's always fun. That's at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And then Monday, I have Massey joining me, who is going to be coming in at 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and she's a singer-songwriter, definitely has a rock edge to her, and so she's got a brand new single that just came out, so we're going to be talking to her on Monday. Tuesday, I have a Velociraptor coming. You might be like, what in the world are you talking about? I've been kind of teasing it on my Instagram, and it's someone who has created this really remarkable outfit, costume, mechanical. It looks like something that came right out of Jurassic Park. And it's going to be interesting talking to her about how she's created that, made that. There's some really funny clips of her out in the community. And some people, especially kids, are just fascinated by it, and other people are kind of actually scared because it's actually life size. Everything looks just amazingly real for this. So that's going to be at Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And then Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., I'm going to have Rafael Mendez stop by, and he is an amazing vocalist from Brazil. who has an uncanny resemblance to Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden. He has his own band called Icon of Sin. So we're going to be talking about their debut recording that's coming out on Frontiers. And I also have 2 interviews next Saturday, the 27th, and there's a bunch of other. I already have stuff scheduled into April. So again, I'm just extremely grateful for the fact that people want to take the time to talk to someone like me. So let's kind of get to things. My guest today is a singer and songwriter based out of Colorado. She has a brand new single, Rise, coming out very soon. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, RachelA.
Hey.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that we're connecting finally.
Yeah, me too.
Such a crazy time. Goodness.
It is a crazy time. Although I'm fascinated by this velociraptor thing or dinosaur thing you're having on. I'm gonna have to watch that, man. Get my kids.
Yeah, it's so I can tell a really quick story. There's a local horror convention called Crypticon Seattle. Happens once a year, and so I cover it. I've been covering it since like 2012, and so it's 3 days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I just happened to have to have left early on the Sunday when this velociraptor made its first appearance publicly, and I was kind of like, I saw it on, I think, social media later. I was like, what is that? And they kept it under wraps the entire weekend. Nobody knew about it. And so it came out, and people were taking pictures with it. And even some of the celebrity guests wanted to touch the nose and all this kind of stuff. And it makes the sounds like you would hear in Jurassic Park. It's just
wow.
Oh my gosh. And so, yeah, it's going to be fun to have her on Tuesday. So
that is amazing. I mean, you could go out in public. That's COVID friendly, right? You're definitely going to be 6 feet away from everyone. You've definitely got a mask going on, right? That's incredible.
That's true. Yeah, it's. I'm really fascinated by anything artistic, so I want to know all the background story about how this was made, what the idea was, and how it's been out in public. And hi, Captain Blackwood, and hi, Ashen Dragon. And I know, Jason, where you're going to be. You're going to be over on another channel, so absolutely you can come back and catch this later. It's going to be a worthwhile interview for sure. So, Rachel, you were telling me that you were just working on a video shoot this morning. So, can you tell me a little bit more about it? Was that for Rise?
It wasn't. Although I'm working on that concept right now, but it was actually. I do work for a church and kind of produce all their music. I do a lot of production work. And so they had a video shoot. It was funny because, of course, we have this great videographer. His name's Taga. He's ridiculous. If you're in Colorado, he's just a great guy to know. But he brought a haze machine, because haze is cool and you want the vibe, right? The atmosphere. And I've never had this happen before. It set off the alarm, of course, the fire alarm. Thank God there was no water coming out of the ceilings at that point. But of course, the fire department showed up, and it was like an hour later, we finally got back to filming. So I'm grateful I got here on time and could make the interview. But that's the life of art, right? You got to make time for it. You never know what's going to happen. So.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. We still got to use the haze. They were nice enough to just turn the whole thing off for us for that time. So that's good.
Wow. And you got to see the fire department in action too.
You know what? And they were so nice. And actually it was really funny because the one of the lead singers recognized one of the firefighters. Of course, none of us knew that. And so we're all standing outside, waiting for them to arrive. And the one guy comes walking up the stairs, and my buddy just pushes him. And I was like, what sort of strategy is this? How is this going to be helpful? Well, I mean, they knew each other. They're like best friends. Like, he was goofing off. But I was like, great. The fire alarm went off. And now I've got one of my band members, pushing the firemen around. Like, we're never going to finish this, But no, they were good buddies. And yeah. Had some fun together, who knew they were supposed to probably show up. We were all supposed to say hi and have some fun together today, I guess. So.
Well, I'm glad everything worked out. For the best in the end.
Yeah, we got it done.
Yeah. So, but let's talk about Rise, and I'd love to know more about the timeline of when you started to write it, record it, and what people can expect when it gets released.
Well, you know, this one, I challenged myself last year and this year. I had co-produced a lot of records for myself and my bands, written a lot of songs for myself and for other artists. That's kind of my history. I've produced for a lot of other artists, but I'd never done something just for me, you know, all by myself. And so I've been slowly just creating music and challenging myself with each new piece to maybe do something I haven't done before, think outside the box. Rise was a songwrite. It's one of those songs, you know, and I know you're a musician. Sometimes you just sit down and things come out. And you get the whole thing kind of done, and you look back and you're like, I barely remember writing it. I remember what it felt like to be at my piano. And that's about all I remember about the song. It just happened, you know, and it was very fast. And I love songs like that because usually when you go back and listen, you're like, oh yeah, I love that song. And it says so much of what I wanted to say. And it has an inspirational message. And so my husband, Dave, has toured with Jake Shimabukuro now for a number of years. And he was one of the first people that came to mind because he's an inspirational artist. And I thought, you know, it'd be really cool to create something that he could actually contribute to. And so I did something I haven't done before, and it's much more of an orchestral piece. And it sounds a little bit more like a musical, or, you know, kind of a song that you would hear in that sort of a setting. And I did that because I knew I wanted to see if Jake would play on it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I cover musicals here locally when the touring musicals for the United States come to Seattle. So you've got me really, really intrigued by what you just described.
Yeah, it's much more natural. So I like pop music, and I like to kind of create. I like to mess around with sounds. With this one, I really tried to choose organic, natural sounds and instrumentation, and got some live players to play on it and that sort of thing. So it's a little new and special for me too, genre-wise, and I'm excited to release it.
Awesome. And like we were saying too, and I know exactly what you're saying, that when some songs, they just kind of just flow out of you. And when that happens, they usually are the best ones because there's something just kind of like very natural about it, and you didn't have to labor over it too much. It just kind of happens.
Right. And I feel like too, when I was writing it, it was a time where I think there was a lot of darkness. I think there was a time frame last year where everybody was kind of scared or worried or concerned. There was just so much chaos and so little information. And most people were kind of living in a little bit of a state of anxiety or panic, or at least things had changed. And this song came out at that time, and it's really about what it means to care for one another and how that rises. It raises all of us, and what it means to live well and to face the hardships in life. And it just came out, and I thought, you know, this timing is really right. I think people, you know, we know what fear can do, right? But sometimes in those moments we forget what love can do and what courage can do. And so it was good for me. I just remember when I was writing it and singing it, it helped me. And I've always felt like music should first and foremost be healing, you know, and healing for the people playing it. I mean, if you're playing something that's negative for you or bad for you for a long period of time, that can really change you. You know, you should be careful what you write and what you play. So it was one of those songs. It was a pleasure for me. It didn't feel like it even came from me in some ways. And yeah, I love that stuff.
Wow. Yeah. And you have some really wise words there, because it is something like I can think for myself, even like a year ago this time, that there was so much uncertainty. You didn't really know what was going on. There's all these new restrictions coming out, at least here in Seattle. And it was like, so when is this going to end? Oh, it's probably going to end by June. Oh, it's probably going to end by September.
No.
Oh. Yeah. And obviously there's a lot of dissension out there in society and other things that were going on, and movements, and it just kind of kept adding to the plate. And like you said, it's so easy to lose your perspective on things, that certain things can bring you on one path and other things can bring you on a whole other path if you're talking about love and hope and positivity and kindness. And it's, as long as people kind of remember to maybe shake their head a little bit and say, oh wait, you know, don't forget these things, you'll be all right. But if you forget that and you stay over here, other things happen to you.
It's true, and we're all the same in that way. I think there are things that are just foundational to being human, and emotions affect us all. Negative emotions affect us one way, positive the other. I think a great question to always be asking is, who do I want to be? Right? Who do I aspire to be? I can't really control things going on outside of me, but who do I want to be in this situation? And I think so many times when I remind myself of that, it actually does change that next step I'm about to take. What am I aspiring to here? Yeah, and I think you'll hear that in this song.
Awesome. Yeah, people that have been watching these interviews since May kind of know that I keep talking and bringing up the word intentional and your intention with things. And it's okay if you fall short on something. It's okay if something doesn't work out. But what was your intention behind it? If it was something positive and trying to do well and hopefully help other people and also help yourself, then that's fine. But if your intention was something else, then it starts to unravel in other ways that aren't positive for you. So I'm really glad that you're putting out a song like this. I think you're right. I think people need it, and it's just any kind of positives that we can get, silver linings, more the merrier.
Yeah, exactly.
And you mentioned that Jake Shimabukuro participated in the recording of this song. So is Jake playing like melody? Is he somewhere in the background? So what's he doing? I'm just curious.
Well, he is just the sweetest person, the kindest heart. And I sent him the song. I just thought, I don't care what he sends me. I know it's going to be beautiful and great. And the song was kind of pretty much completed at that point. And so it was like, I remember sending it to him and thinking, if he gets back to me and he goes, you know what, there's not enough space for me, I will make space. But Jake, he's brilliant. And so he figured out ways to weave in and out. And so you'll hear him kind of be up, and comes in the beginning. And then he's really got all these cool, intricate things that create a texture happening through a lot of the song, especially when I'm singing. But then you'll hear kind of some of his parts kind of do this. And what I think is kind of cool and interesting about that is just listening to Jake play for a number of years and hearing everything he's played on. I think it's also unique to him to have that. Like, he becomes so much of a part of the production of the song, where he's having little solos and moments, but then he's creating a bed basically for me to sing to as well in this really cool way. And so I mean, you'll hear him, he's there, but he's not soloing through the whole song. So it's unique. It's a little bit of a different thing. And it made me actually appreciate him even that much more as a musician, because I actually think it's hard when someone sends you a song to come up with the right part, right? It can't just be anything you want. And people, I produce a lot of music. People will sometimes just send me 30 things that they love all of them. And, you go through and you're like, no, that doesn't work. That's not right. It's not the right vibe. It's not the right emotion, but the great musicians are able to listen and not overplay, right? Play when it's right, play the right vibe, the right thing. And so he does that so well. And he impressed me even more with this piece.
Wow. And that doesn't surprise me at all that he played for the song.
Yes.
And found out how to make sure he enhanced it, not take it over, and make it something that's like, the spotlight is on you and this wonderful song. I'm going to add a layer to it, not become the foundation of the song. Right.
He didn't just play over everything. He plays beautiful parts. And I mean, that's just like the producer in me just sings, like my heart sings when people do that. You just go, oh, yes, that's all you can ever ask for when you ask somebody to play on a song. And so, bless him. He just did an amazing job.
Awesome. So do we have an official date when the song is coming out? Yes,
it's coming out March 23rd. And then, like I said, I'm working on some video concepts. It's tough because, I would love for Jake to be in the video. He lives in Hawaii. I live in Colorado. So I'm trying to figure out what can we do here. And so hopefully we'll come up with something creative and fun.
Okay, awesome. And I'm also curious because you've mentioned more than once about your production background. And so can you, in a little bit of time, give me the background? So how did you get started in producing? Did you go to school? Is something you're self-taught? A little bit of both?
A little bit of both. So I grew up, I was a classically trained pianist, and I always had music in my head. You know, it was just something that it was always there. I could hear a song and hear what it could be. And so I always had it in the back of my mind that producing was something I wanted to do. When I first got into music, I actually didn't get into it to be an artist. I started writing for other artists. That's kind of how I got into it. And so I was already at the very beginning thinking about other people, how they sing, what sounds good with their voice, what's their range, what type of song will sound good, you know. So I was already thinking like a producer when I started, and had some wonderful success and wonderful artists take my songs, and then started getting into artistry and decided I really wanted to dig into production, because as much as I had ideas in my head, the technical aspect was not something that I had a lot of experience in. And so really started understanding all the different programs out there, Logic, Pro Tools, what it feels like in a studio, you know, different types of producers, because producers, you know, are very different. I've worked with lots of producers, and I'll never forget, I had the opportunity to work with Don Was a number of years ago. And I kind of anticipated him to be the same type of producer as the other producers I've worked with, and he wasn't. He was really different. And he kind of would just kind of give a nod when things were going well. And then he just kind of, you know, no, don't do that when things weren't going, when it wasn't what he thought it should be. But he had this presence and this ability to kind of direct us, but also help us feel like we were really also in charge and responsible for the outcome of the song as a band. And I loved that too. And so I learned over the years how different producers work, and then I just started doing it. And I lucked out. I had some artists come along that let me produce for them and let me write for them and write with them and develop them. And so I've been doing pretty much all the production, I would say, for about 4 or 5 years now, you know, but I had a good number of years of experience before that. I think one of the best ways to learn some of this stuff is just to dig in and start doing it. I wish I would have gone to school. I did not go to school for music. I went to school for broadcast journalism. So you know what? It was probably a mistake, but I learned other things then. But it was after all of that. And it was actually after I had my first son that I really started writing for other people and realized I loved music today as much as I did as a kid when I was singing and playing piano. And so I just kind of had to teach myself. And I just tried to get around the best people I could in order to learn. And that actually turned out really, I think, good for me. It was good for me to just see how other people operate and be in a lot of studios and that sort of thing.
I can relate a little bit to what you're talking about, because after most people know out there that I used to work as a public school teacher, and then right after that I worked as an audio engineer at a computer company, but I didn't go to school for it. And I was kind of like, how did this job even happen? Because I don't feel like I'm qualified for it. But at that time, this was many years ago, it was really kind of working on like voice actors and putting sound onto like things for the web. And if there's a 30-second commercial, they needed some kind of loop to go with it. So that's where my kind of, I guess, expertise came in. And it was very much, I had to learn on the job. I had to try to figure things out, just kind of jump into the deep end. And I loved it because I was constantly feeling like I was getting somewhere. I was learning more, doing more. And I will never forget, it was probably like 1985, totally dating myself, but that there was an interview with Tom Cruise, and he was promoting The Color of Money, the film with Paul Newman. And he had said that I think the question was something about like, why did you choose or whatever to work with Paul Newman, or how did this happen? He said that if you want to be the best, you have to work with the best. And it's always stuck me, just like what you were saying, being around some really talented producers, then you're going to learn from them and you're going to absorb some of those things. And then you kind of put it into your own style of how you're going to produce. And it makes the most sense in the world to me.
Totally. And it's such a fun, good for you for doing that. it's hard, right? Especially at the beginning, because you're just like, there's so much information, there's so much gear, there are so many options, you know, and then you bring other people into the mix and their voice and how for voiceovers, I'm sure you just, everybody's different. And so that's it's fun to hear that you did that, because that's not the route everybody takes.
Yeah, it was crazy. And sometimes the deadlines would change on us. So instead of it being, you know, midnight on Friday, it's now midnight on Thursday. It's like, okay, we don't have any talent coming in. So I started utilizing the talent within our own companies. Like, okay, who seems to be kind of a character? I was like, you're pretty funny. Let me talk to you and see.
Yeah,
how you
we're gonna have to do this. So let's just try it. Yep.
Yep.
I've been there. I mean, what's so fun about it though, because I'm kind of more naturally an introvert, and what's been so cool is just being able to observe different artists and different creators and different personalities, and then trying to help bring out the best, you know, of other people. I love that practice. I think it's so fun when you help somebody maybe discover something about themselves they didn't know they could do, or, you know, create something they never thought they could create. When you help them sing in a way they never knew they could sing, you get to kind of hear things that other people don't hear and spend that time with those artists. And I loved that. So fun. Every time I get to do it, it's just a blast.
I know what you're saying. It's a little bit like when you're teaching, that if you can actually bring something out of someone who didn't think they could, you know, do math or do English or do something, when you see them, that kind of light bulb moment or that smile on their face or whatever it is, when they just start feeling good, and you can see the confidence building in them, especially like in your case, if you're talking about working with artists as a producer, that's like, okay. And I've even found it a little bit by even doing these interviews sometimes, by talking to somebody, they're like, Mark, you're such a cheerleader for what I was doing. It's like, I didn't think I was going to work on anything else related to this film, but now I want to go back and look about maybe actually writing that sequel. And that's like one of the biggest compliments anyone could ever give me, because it's fully organic, it's fully genuine, and I actually mean every word that I say. So it's like, if I somehow inspired you to go back and do more of what I already love, everybody wins.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, those people that they're like, I love this so much, I want to keep going. That's the biggest compliment. Just like whenever an artist comes back and wants to work with me and they want to keep working, especially, you know, entertainment is a tough business. Making music it's not the easiest business to be in, and it's a roller coaster ride. So if you can inspire people to keep on being their best and to put out stuff that they're proud of, I think you're doing really good work.
I absolutely agree. And again, I'd never take it for granted when someone wants to come back on and do another interview, or wants to DM me or private message me about something related to what we said or some resource that I had. And it's like, I'm absolutely that type of person. I'm a very transparent person. So when I said that I would do that for you, I meant I would do that for you. And I know we kind of have limited time, Rachel, but beyond Rise, are there some other things down in the horizon that are coming up musically for you this year?
Yes, I'm going to continue to be releasing music. And what's really fun is I also work for a church called Journey Church here in Colorado, and they have contracted me to produce all of their music as well. And so I'm going to have a lot of music that I'm going to get to release that I got to produce or help co-write and help create. Lots of other artists I'm still working with. There's an artist, Elise Lieberth. She's got a big online following, and she's got some songs coming out that I worked with her on and has previously released some. And so it's kind of, what's fun about this year is I think it's the year of like music releases for me. Just everyone I'm working with, they're going to release a lot of stuff. And so it's going to be really creative. But I do have, so after Rise, I have a very different tune coming out after that. It's almost like on the opposite end of the sonic spectrum in some ways. And so hopefully I'll get to shock and surprise and have some fun this year.
Well, no, that sounds awesome. And I love it when artists don't think in terms of boundaries. So I feel like doing this style of music, and then tomorrow I feel like doing this style of music. And it's like, it's going to resonate with somebody.
Well, you know, it's tough because for a long time when I first got into music, I was critiqued a lot for not staying within, you know, like finding a lane and staying there, and how, you know, nobody knows what you're doing now and nobody understands what you are. And for a while, I was like, well, they're probably right. Maybe I should just make records. You know, this record needs to all sound the same. And but what's kind of cool is now that it's more and more of a singles world, where you're not making whole records and you're not having to keep that sonic. Man, this time periods, I don't always love how digital everything is. I love live music. I love, but the time period really suits me in some ways because I create stuff and it just comes out. And I'm like, I can't help the fact that that's what this song is. This is what I wrote today, and I mean, it's funny. I do a lot of pop music right now, but, the first song that any other artist ever took of mine was a country song. And I've done rock and, all sorts of jazz and all sorts of fun things in the past. And so it's like, I think it's okay to just create. Again, if you're looking at music, first and foremost being for yourself because you're alone with it when you're creating it, you have to let whatever's in there, just let it out, see what happens and not be afraid. And there's a lot more placement and opportunity now for music than there used to be. So. Yeah, no,
I agree. And I also relate to that because with what I do with my media outlet, initially it was all music. So then when I started branching out into opera and ballet and plays and musicals and everything else, some of the people that knew me from the music scene was like, Mark, aren't you spreading yourself too thin? Aren't you losing your focus? And it's like, no, this is actually what it was supposed to be because it's eclectic arts. It's supposed to be things that I'm genuinely interested in. And sometimes I don't know these areas, so I want to learn and explore. And so I said, I can't be the only person that has an interest and is curious about lots of different things all under the same umbrella.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, there's something to be said for well-roundedness too, to not just, I know we're all kind of told, follow that one passion and become an expert at only one thing. But it is kind of crazy when you break outside those boundaries and what you learn about yourself, what you learn about your art, what you learn about just exploring some other spaces and kind of getting outside of yourself. And especially, for me as a vocalist, I will say singing lots of different styles of music has improved my vocals more than 1,000 lessons ever could. Being forced to listen to what do I sound like when I'm singing this? Well, that's not right. I'm going to go back and make that adjustment so I can fit into that genre better. Wow, like it just expanded my range and my ability. And it certainly has always benefited me to be versatile and be open and not put too many restrictions on it because it's art,
Right. Yeah. It should be whatever you organically feel and want to create and what comes out. So, Rachel, again, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm really looking forward to Rise. So that's going to be on, I want to say it was March 23rd to drop.
March 23rd, coming up.
Awesome. And say hi to your better half for me.
I will.
Or your other half, I should say.
I called him my better half in a song that we had out a couple years ago, so I'll take it. Yeah.
But it was truly a pleasure talking with you. I really loved it. I wish we had more time. Maybe we'll end up doing like a part 2 or something like that, and we can explore your music further.
I love it. Thank you so much. This was a blast. How lovely.
Thank you. Stay safe down there. Hopefully you and your entire family stay safe down. I can see your kids in the background.
I know. This can go on your blooper reel whenever you make one. You can zoom in on my daughter who is back there. Yeah.
There's plenty for that blooper reel from all the interviews I've done.
I'm sure that's true.
But yeah, have a good afternoon and a good evening down there, and hopefully I can talk to you soon.
Thanks. You too. Thank you so much, Mark.
Bye.
Bye.